Ellie Monroe and Grant Whitmore, the crown prince of Seattle's elite, broke up quietly, without drama, without lingering attachments. She walked away with a $1.7 million settlement and gracefully stepped aside to make room for his first love. She thought that was the end of their story. Clean. Final. Done. But out of nowhere, Grant reappeared, cold-eyed and intense, surrounding her like a storm. "You went on a blind date? You're seeing another man?" Ellie's eyes widened. "We broke up. What? Am I supposed to stay single forever to prove my loyalty to you?" Apparently, Grant didn't see it that way. The same man who left her with ice in his veins was now back, using every dominant, ruthless tactic to tie her back to his life. Was this a second chance at love? Or a dangerous game between obsession and heartbreak? Now, Ellie has to decide. Can she escape the man who once shattered her? Or is her heart too bruised to push him away again? Dear listeners, if you love emotional, heartwarming stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's dive into a tale that will stir your heart and stay with you long after the last word. "You actually went on a blind date?" Riley Green asked, blinking in disbelief. After a few seconds of silence, she lowered her voice. "But what about Grant Whitmore? You loved him, 4 years together. Are you really just walking away from all that?" Ellie Monroe looked up, took a sip of wine, and offered a quiet smile. Walking away is technically accurate, but it's not exactly the right word. She swirled the glass in her hand. "Breaking up with Grant cost me a cool $1.7 million. That's about the only kindness he gave me on the way out." Riley let out a sharp, annoyed snort, but then suddenly seemed to remember something. She touched the bridge of her nose awkwardly. "Ellie, I'm sorry. Your stuff. Your things are still at Grant's place. I haven't picked them up yet." Ellie froze. "You haven't?" After the breakup, she had immediately gone back to her hometown to arrange her grandmother's funeral. She'd only just returned to Seattle a day ago, and Riley had volunteered to handle the move out for her. Ellie figured it was the least she could do, considering the settlement. A clean break. Riley clutched her chest dramatically. "You don't even know. Yesterday I went to grab your things and Grant was home. He didn't go to work, just sat there on the couch. Saying nothing, doing nothing. He stared at me the whole time. I swear I got goosebumps all over. When I was just about to leave, he suddenly said, 'Nice hands. Want me to chop them off?' I almost cried on the spot." She turned to Ellie, her voice more serious now. "Honestly, I don't think he wanted to let you go." Ellie shook her head. "No way. Everyone in our circle knows about Grant and his precious Savannah Blake. She was his first love. She left him years ago to chase her dreams overseas. Didn't even say goodbye. He was a mess for months. I didn't know what to do. I just stayed by his side, took care of him." She paused, her voice softening. "I never expected much. But then, on Christmas morning 4 years ago, I gave him a cup of honey water. Like I always did after his hangovers. He looked at me, dead serious, and said, 'Do you like me?' Ellie had panicked. Her face went red. No. I never thought. 'Then come with me,' he said. And just like that, 4 little words changed her life. She had replaced Savannah Blake in Grant's world. For 4 years, Ellie gave him everything. Her time, her heart, her quiet devotion. And for those 4 years, he had no one else. People in their circle even called her the most successful stand-in in history. Ellie believed it too. She really thought they had a future. But fate had other plans. On the exact day of their 4-year anniversary, Savannah returned. All it took was one message. "Grant, I miss you." That was enough for him to rush to the airport with her. Leaving Ellie alone in the house she had decorated with balloons and candles for a surprise proposal, She waited all night. In the end, all she received was a $1.7 million settlement check and a goodbye. The Golden Girl had returned, and Grant clearly couldn't wait to erase Ellie from his life. How could anyone say he didn't want the breakup? Ellie shrugged, trying her best to sound casual. At this point, I just hope this city's big enough that I never have to see him again in this lifetime. Riley Green pouted and nodded in agreement. Yeah, the whole social circle knows about you two. Bumping into each other would just be awkward. Ellie narrowed her eyes, gaze slipping past Riley's shoulder toward the entrance of the restaurant. Just in time to see Grant Whitmore walking in. He stopped for a brief second when he spotted her, then headed straight toward their table. Ellie sighed. Riley, your mouth seriously has some kind of sixth sense. She had chosen this particular restaurant, owned by Riley's husband, for 3 very calculated reasons. 1, it was close to her hot pot place, Broth and Ember. 2, it wasn't far from the guy she'd just had a blind date with. And 3, Riley and her husband were totally independent of Grant's social scene. She figured the chance of running into anyone familiar would be slim. Apparently, she'd miscalculated. Riley gave a nervous laugh. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? By then, Grant had already reached their table. He didn't say a word, just raised an eyebrow at Riley. And just like that, she bolted, abandoning Ellie with the kind of speed that made it feel like someone had yanked her out by the collar. Clearly, the trauma from helping Ellie pack her things was still fresh. Ellie arched a brow, poured herself a glass of whiskey, and calmly met Grant's eyes as he took the seat across from her. Mr. Whitmore, could you give me a little grace here? It had been more than 10 days since their breakup, and strangely, she felt composed. Grant didn't move. His pitch-black eyes studied her intensely. It was a stunning face, sure, but the silence and the pressure behind that gaze made it feel suffocating. Ellie quietly tightened her grip around her glass, but her smile stayed steady. After a tense half-minute, Grant finally smirked, raised his glass, but didn't drink. His eyes narrowed slightly. Where were you yesterday? Ellie let out a small laugh. Running a business. Not all of us have trust funds, remember? I can't exactly afford to blow money like it's confetti. Grant's expression softened a little. Came to see Riley? Ellie blinked, caught off guard by the question. Before she could answer, a voice, low, steady, cool, cut in from behind. Ellie Monroe? She looked up. A tall man in a crisp white shirt and jeans stood at the edge of their table, eyes flicking between her and Grant with a flicker of suspicion. She straightened in surprise. Yes? You're Ellie? That's right. The man gave a curt nod, then glanced at Grant. Guess I showed up too early. What is this? Another setup? You lining up backup dates now? The Golden Girl had returned, and Grant clearly couldn't wait to erase Ellie from his life. How could anyone say he didn't want the breakup? Ellie shrugged, trying her best to sound casual. At this point, I just hope this city's big enough that I never have to see him again in this lifetime. Riley Green pouted and nodded in agreement. Yeah, the whole social circle knows about you two. Bumping into each other would just be awkward. Ellie narrowed her eyes, gaze slipping past Riley's shoulder toward the entrance of the restaurant. Just in time to see Grant Whitmore walking in. He stopped for a brief second when he spotted her, then headed straight toward their table. Ellie sighed. Riley, your mouth seriously has some kind of sixth sense. She had chosen this particular restaurant, owned by Riley's husband, For three very calculated reasons. 1. It was close to her hot pot place, Broth and Ember. 2. It wasn't far from the guy she'd just had a blind date with. And 3. Riley and her husband were totally independent of Grant's social scene. She figured the chance of running into anyone familiar would be slim. Apparently, she'd miscalculated. Riley gave a nervous laugh. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? By then, Grant had already reached their table. He didn't say a word, just raised an eyebrow at Riley. And just like that, she bolted, abandoning Ellie with the kind of speed that made it feel like someone had yanked her out by the collar. Clearly, the trauma from helping Ellie pack her things was still fresh. Ellie arched a brow, poured herself a glass of whiskey, and calmly met Grant's eyes as he took the seat across from her. Mr. Whitmore, could you give me a little grace here? It had been more than 10 days since their breakup, and strangely, she felt composed. Grant didn't move. His pitch-black eyes studied her intensely. It was a stunning face, sure, but the silence and the pressure behind that gaze made it feel suffocating. Ellie quietly tightened her grip around her glass, but her smile stayed steady. After a tense half-minute, Grant finally smirked, raised his glass, but didn't drink. His eyes narrowed slightly. Where were you yesterday? Ellie let out a small laugh. Running a business. Not all of us have trust funds, remember? I can't exactly afford to blow money like it's confetti. Grant's expression softened a little. Came to see Riley? Ellie blinked, caught off guard by the question. Before she could answer, a voice. Low, steady, cool. Cut in from behind. Ellie Monroe? She looked up. A tall man in a crisp white shirt and jeans stood at the edge of their table, eyes flicking between her and Grant with a flicker of suspicion. She straightened in surprise. Yes? You're Ellie? That's right. The man gave a curt nod, then glanced at Grant. Guess I showed up too early. What is this? Another setup? You lining up backup dates now? The second the words left his mouth, Grant Whitmore's face hardened. You really went on a blind date? Ellie nodded calmly. I did. Well then, she smiled lightly. I won't keep you any longer. Grant's brow furrowed deeper. He didn't move. Instead of leaving, his gaze shifted toward the man beside her. Dr. Nathan Prescott. His eyes, once sharp, now seemed to swirl with something darker. Mr. Whitmore, Ellie said in a lowered voice, I think it's time to say goodbye. Staring down my date like a bouncer isn't exactly polite. But Grant didn't budge. His eyes gleamed with something unreadable. Then, suddenly, he let out a low, mocking laugh. Well, we did share a bed for 4 years. I'm just making sure your replacement checks out. The shame hit Ellie like a lightning strike up her spine. Her fists clenched beneath the table. How many ways could this man find to hurt her? She forced a smile, lifting her head with grace. My grandmother helped pick him, and her judgment was always spot on. Grant's dark eyes narrowed, scanning her as if trying to find a crack in her composure, but he didn't say anything else. Then, thankfully, a ringtone shattered the tension. Grant reached into his pocket, glanced at the screen, and immediately softened. Grant, where are you? Came the soft voice on the other end. Savannah Blake? Her voice was so sugary sweet, even Ellie could hear it clearly from where she sat. I'm downstairs, just bumped into a friend. Won't be long, Grant replied, his eyes lingering on Ellie. Just saying hi, right? Savannah asked playfully. Yeah, he said, tone calm. Ellie smiled, her nails digging into her palms so hard it stung straight through to her heart. Grant hung up and stood, adjusting his sleeve with an air of smug composure. You two go ahead. Don't mind me. Ellie watched as he ascended the stairs, back toward his high society clique. Something inside her twisted, then went numb. His relaxed, matter-of-fact tone yanked her back to the present. Ellie blinked, slightly thrown. You still want to continue? Nathan leaned back like this was just another casual afternoon. Why wouldn't I? First of all, I'm not blind. I understand what this is, and I don't think you've done anything wrong. Second, I'm not the type who cares about someone's past. Third, he paused, eyes glinting. You actually owe me something. Ellie blinked. I do? Nathan pursed his lips and said, perfectly deadpan, I have a dog. He likes grilled skewers. Her brain short-circuited. Excuse me? Without another word, he pulled out his phone and set it on the table. Ellie leaned in and froze. It was street camera footage from the night she broke up with Grant. Her breakup check, worth $1.7 million, lay discarded on the pavement. She was sitting on the curb outside Broth and Ember, hugging a wine bottle and sobbing uncontrollably. Next to her sat a small, scruffy golden retriever. The dog was sneakily chewing on skewers she'd brought from the restaurant. Hey, buddy, drunk Ellie had slurred. You got dumped too? Bet your owner ditched you, huh? Same here. These skewers are cold, don't eat 'em. But tomorrow, come back same time, okay? I'll feed you every day. Just you and me, okay, little dude? She groaned into her hands. Oh my God. The footage was clear, and the next day, that same dog had shown up outside the restaurant. Waiting. All night. But you never came, Nathan said quietly. Ellie's heart sank. She remembered now. She'd gotten the call that her grandmother was dying. She'd left for her hometown immediately. Nathan locked his phone and looked at her. My dog. His name's Lucky. Has been depressed ever since. He's convinced humanity is a scam. He trusted you. Ellie opened her mouth to speak, but Nathan cut in. I'm serious. This is a crisis. We're going out right now to get the best skewers in town and some premium-grade dog food. You owe him. Without giving her much choice, he pulled up his QR code and slid it toward her. Clearly, she hadn't earned his full trust yet. Ellie scrambled for her phone and added him. His profile picture was a golden retriever. Fluffy, innocent-eyed, absolutely adorable. She groaned again. Fine, Dr. Prescott. I'll take responsibility. He smiled. Let's go. As she grabbed her purse to follow him, Ellie suddenly felt an icy shiver run down her spine. She paused and looked up. On the second floor of the restaurant, standing by the railing, was Grant Whitmore. He was staring at her like he'd been carved from stone, eyes dark and unreadable. Behind him were a few smug-looking trust fund heirs, their faces twisted with disdain. At his side stood Savannah Blake, dressed in a designer evening gown, the picture of grace. So they were all here. Ellie's jaw tightened. She glanced toward the bar. Riley stood behind it, pale and stunned. She shook her head frantically, mouthing, I had no idea they'd be here. As if on cue, Savannah spotted her, her eyes lit up, her voice too sweet to be real. Ellie! Wow, what a surprise! Long time no see. Ellie Monroe gave a small, guarded smile and nodded. Miss Blake, you've been well. Savannah Blake turned to gesture at the crowd behind her, wearing an expression that was both gleeful and theatrically helpless. I just got back to the States. Everyone insisted on throwing me a welcome-back party here. And actually, she added with a light laugh, after this, we're heading to check out my new hot pot place. She turned sweetly to Grant Whitmore, her smile glowing with satisfaction. Grant insisted on opening a restaurant for me. Right here on this street, of all places. I remembered you're in the same business, Ellie, so I guess we're colleagues now. She tilted her head. You'll stop by and give me some advice, won't you? Ellie's gaze lifted sharply to Grant. So, Savannah was opening a hot pot restaurant too? On this street? In theory, competition in the same industry was expected. Normal. But Savannah wasn't just anyone. Her family owned a jewelry empire worth hundreds of millions. She had no reason to open a modest little hot pot place, except to spite someone. Ellie's own family had once belonged to Seattle's old money elite, but after her parents' sudden deaths, everything crumbled. She'd been young and naive, and the rest of her family, greedy relatives and power-hungry board members, picked apart her inheritance like vultures. The only thing she managed to keep was a dying chain of hot pot restaurants. She'd clawed and bled to bring it back to life. Grant had seen it all, every tear, every sacrifice. She couldn't believe he didn't realize what Savannah's sudden business venture on her turf meant. Grant's eyes briefly moved between her and Dr. Nathan Prescott. After a beat, he said coolly, helping Savannah a little won't hurt you. Won't hurt her? Savannah Blake had walked away from him like he meant nothing. Now she wanted him back and had the audacity to demand Ellie's piece of the market. And smile while doing it? And Ellie was supposed to grin and play consultant? Savannah gave her a doe-eyed look. Come by, okay? Ellie tilted her head, her voice cold with amusement, just as she was about to speak. She's busy, Nathan said, cutting in without hesitation. Everyone turned in surprise. He didn't raise his voice, didn't scowl, didn't even blink. He was perfectly composed, calm, his tone chill enough to slice granite. She's coming over to my place, he added. He stepped forward and casually took Ellie's purse from her shoulder, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Time to go, Miss Heartless Boss, he murmured. Ellie glanced at him, stunned, then burst into a quiet, grateful smile. Behind them, Grant's voice broke the moment. Ellie, are you seriously doing this? You're walking out with him? Everyone paused. Ellie slowly turned to face him, her tone razor sharp. You've got your fiancé on your arm, and you're still policing your ex. Maybe focus on managing her hot pot dreams instead of mine. Grant's expression twisted, but before he could speak, Nathan, already at the door, turned back, his lips tugging into a cool smile. For the record, he said, looking directly at Grant, Ellie and I aren't strangers, so you can stop worrying. And with that, he opened the door and walked out with her beside him. Grant Whitmore's expression stiffened instantly. Ellie Monroe blinked a few times, then quickly turned and followed Nathan Prescott out the door. Sure, he was a little odd, she admitted. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized he hadn't said anything wrong. Truthfully, she had broken his poor dog's heart. That dog, tiny as it was, sprawled out on the balcony like some ancient philosopher weighted down by the misfortunes of life. Mr. Lucky, I was wrong. I was wrong, Ellie muttered as she knelt down on one knee, presenting a bowl of premium gourmet dog food like it was an offering to royalty. Please take a bite, just one. Forgive me. Nathan was lounging on the couch, silent, watching her like he was trying very hard not to laugh. Whenever Ellie glanced at him, he always looked completely neutral, but she could feel the teasing in the air. Eventually, Lucky let her pet him again, snuggled into her lap even. And by the time night fell, she could smell dinner cooking from the kitchen. Her stomach growled on cue. Nathan stepped beside the dining table and tilted his head. Come eat. Ellie grinned sheepishly, starting to stand, still cradling Lucky. When her phone suddenly blared inside her purse, she jumped, almost dropping the dog. Flustered, she didn't check the caller ID. She just swiped and answered. "Hello?" A cold voice came through the line. "Your suitcases are still at my place. Come pick them up." Ellie froze and then checked the screen. Grant Whitmore. It was the middle of the night. "It's late, Grant. I'll send someone to get them tomorrow." Silence. Just the faint sound of tense breathing on the other end. Then, "Number, you come. Now." She stared at the phone, completely baffled. She took a deep breath. If it's such a problem, throw them out. There were sentimental items in those suitcases. Most had been chosen with her grandmother before she passed. Ellie had hoped to retrieve them quietly, with closure. But not like this. Not in the middle of the night. Not if it meant reopening wounds with Grant. But still, she stood and set Lucky down, just as she reached to hang up. A jolt of pain shot through her knee. "Ouch!" "Damn!" she hissed. Nathan was immediately at her side, catching her arm. "I told you not to kneel like that for so long. Look. Your knee's red and swollen." "I didn't think I'd be down there so long," she muttered. And just then, like a horror movie come to life, a loud pounding hit the front door, followed by a low, icy voice that made her blood run cold. "Ellie, you're coming out here, or I'm breaking this door down." She froze, eyes wide. "He's here?" The voice inside the phone confirmed it. Still cold, still him, still Grant. Nathan stepped in front of her, calm but firm, and opened the door. Grant stood on the other side, face dark with fury, ignoring Nathan entirely as his eyes locked onto Ellie. "You've got 5 hours to hang out with him, but you can't come get your own things?" Ellie opened her mouth, but nothing came out. "Really? It's that urgent?" she finally asked, voice tight. "You couldn't wait until morning?" "She's staying at my place tonight," Grant said evenly. "I don't want her having to look at your stuff." "Right," Ellie muttered. "Because she might be uncomfortable. And I don't want you claiming I'm keeping your stuff as an excuse to hang around." Ellie's nails dug into her palm, a dull ache building as the words sank in. Her jaw clenched. "Fine," she said flatly. "Let's get this over with." She followed Grant out to his car. It was the first time she'd sat in the passenger seat since their breakup. And she didn't want to say a single word. She leaned her head against the seat, eyes closed, trying to block out the world. Then Grant spoke. "So, you like him?" Ellie opened her eyes slowly, brows furrowing. She met his eyes in the rearview mirror. "Yeah, he's pretty great," she said simply. Grant scoffed. "Pretty great, huh? Guess these past few weeks have been good to you." "You were going to say something, weren't you?" Ellie asked, tilting her head. "Go ahead. Don't hold back now." Grant's smile was bitter. "Forget it." Back at his place, the 2 suitcases were already packed and waiting by the dining room table. Grant sat nearby with a glass of water in hand, eyes tracking her every move without saying a word. Ellie didn't plan on staying longer than necessary. This place, once a home, once a dream, now felt like a stranger's museum. She reached for the handle of one suitcase, ready to leave without another glance, but suddenly a hand gripped her wrist. Tightly. Grant's fingers curled around hers, firm enough to hurt. "You used to love me like your life depended on it," he said, looking up at her with eyes that burned. "And what?" She shot back, her voice colder than ice. "Now you regret letting me go. Staying there any longer would only make her heart hurt more." Ellie reached for the handle of her suitcase and turned to leave. But before she could take a step, a forceful grip closed around her wrist. Grant Whitmore's fingers tightened inch by inch, until the pain made her wince, her face turning pale. "Didn't you used to love me like your life depended on it?" he asked, lifting his eyes to hers, gaze cutting straight through her. One hand tugged gently at the hem of her blouse, as if he could pull her back into the past by force. "So it only took a few weeks for you to get over me?" he said, voice sharp and cracking. "You can just start over with someone new like none of it ever mattered? Do you even believe that yourself?" Anger and humiliation rose up inside her like wildfire. The worst part wasn't what he said. It was that he, the man who once handed her a breakup check like a business transaction, was now mocking her for not clinging to him. Ellie ripped her wrist from his grasp, her voice steely, her eyes like glass about to shatter. "Does it matter whether I've moved on? What does matter is I've done exactly what an ex is supposed to do. Left you the hell alone." She straightened her shoulders. "Oh. So tell me, Grant, what are you doing here? Still playing games? This your new thing? Sleeping with someone while offering post-breakup support packages? Or are you realizing you can't let go and just figured you'd drag me down with you?" Grant didn't flinch. He just stared at her, an unreadable flicker crossing his face. After a long pause, his voice came low and quiet. "And what if I told you? You're right." Ellie froze. Her entire spine locked. He stood up slowly from the table, placing both hands on either side of her, caging her in between him and the cold surface behind her. "Congratulations, Ellie," he whispered, his voice rough. "You win. Come back. Be with me again." Then he leaned in, his lips brushing softly against her neck, his voice a deep rasp. "You didn't miss me, even a little?" "Because I've missed you." His mouth curved into a slow, suggestive smirk, and his arms slipped around her waist. Grant's body towered over hers, practically pressing her into the wall. Ellie couldn't think, couldn't move. All she could think was, where is Savannah? Wasn't she upstairs, standing there in a $1,000 gown? The chaos in her mind blurred everything. She didn't speak. "You don't have to worry about her," Grant said, as if reading her thoughts. "I'll get you a place. She won't even know." Slap. The sound echoed through the apartment. Ellie's palm stung with the force of it. Grant staggered slightly, blinking in shock. "You think I'd agree to be your side piece? Your mistress? What the hell kind of woman do you think I am?" His silence was worse than denial. His quiet, measured stare was like poison. "I only get one shot at trying to win you back," he said coldly. "And this was it. Once you walk out that door, that's it. There's no coming back." Ellie's jaw tightened. She gripped the suitcase handle, turned around, and gave him one last look. "Good. Then stay gone. Go live your fantasy with Savannah Blake. If we ever meet again, it'll be at a cremation." And she meant every word. She never saw Grant again after that night. But Savannah's hot pot restaurant, Blake and Broth, had its grand opening a few weeks later. The location? Exactly 1 block away from Broth and Ember. The entire district was hot pot central, and Savannah launched her place like a missile. Grand opening discounts, marketing blitzes, free drinks for a month. She poured cash into it like water, and the competition dropped like flies. Ellie, at least, had money to fight back. That breakup settlement was still intact. But even then, Savannah siphoned away nearly a third of her customer base. Sitting on the front step of her restaurant, Ellie rested her chin on her knees and scratched Lucky behind the ears. The dog looked up at her with round, trusting eyes. She sighed and pointed to the financial report in her hands. "All right, Lucky, be honest with me. Other than pricing and flavor, is there any way to beat her?" Lucky let out 2 sharp barks and turned his head toward the far end of the street. Ellie blinked, confused, and looked up. Nathan Prescott was walking toward her, dressed casually, hands in his coat pockets. She gave him a crooked smile. "Dr. Prescott, starting your shift early today." Since their infamous first blind date, they'd grown surprisingly close. Mainly because of Lucky. Nathan had a chaotic schedule as a surgeon and decided Ellie was the best person to watch his dog full-time. She even built a little awning outside her shop so Lucky could act as her greeter. Nathan smiled, pulling a lollipop out of his pocket. "Here, something sweet. It helps when your day sucks." Ellie waved him off with a laugh. "Pass. I just petted Lucky. My hands are dirty." Nathan raised a brow, unwrapped the candy himself, and held it out toward her mouth. "Then don't touch it. Just open up." Ellie blinked, surprised. Her cheeks turned pink. She was about to take it herself when suddenly, Lucky yanked the leash hard, pulling her forward. She yelped and tumbled straight into Nathan's chest. Thankfully, Nathan Prescott reacted fast. He reached down just in time to catch Ellie Monroe, keeping her from face-planting on the pavement. But in doing so, she landed squarely in his arms. Thump, 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 thump. Her right ear was pressed against his chest, and the sound of his heartbeat filled her head. Strong, steady, and loud. Her face turned scarlet. Ellie scrambled out of his arms in a panic, flustered, laughing awkwardly to cover her embarrassment. "Wow! Dr. Prescott, your heart's beating pretty fast, huh?" Nathan stood up too, smiling faintly. He held the lollipop back up to her mouth, eyes warm and focused, like he saw right through her. Something in his gaze made her breath hitch. Ellie's eyes widened. Wait, was this what she thought it was? Before she could dwell on it, Lucky suddenly barked. Loud and sharp, he bared his little teeth and blocked the path of a customer trying to leave the restaurant. "Oh my God." "Lucky!" Ellie rushed to grab his leash. "He paid already. You don't have to collect twice." The little dog let out a final growl before stepping aside with great reluctance. Ellie apologized profusely and saw the customer off. When she looked up again, her gaze happened to land across the street. Savannah Blake, walking alone, eyes red and face pale, like she'd just been crying. That was unexpected. This woman had the man, the money, the business, the spotlight. And yet, she cried? But whatever it was, it had nothing to do with Ellie. She crouched back down beside Lucky, stroking his fur and whispering, "Thanks, buddy. Seriously. If it weren't for you, I don't know what I would have said to Nathan." What Ellie didn't expect was that by nightfall she, Nathan, and Lucky would all be famous. Turns out, a major content creator, one with over 1 million followers, had randomly wandered into her restaurant earlier that day. They live-streamed the whole experience, Ellie squatting on the sidewalk, handing a financial report to her dog, asking for advice, Nathan showing up with quiet charm, Lucky chasing off a customer like a little debt collector. The internet ate it up. Hashtags exploded across every platform. Number guard dog CEO, number puppy analyzes profits, number soft-spoken surgeon, number rom-com in real life, number hot pot love story by 2 a.m. Ellie's phone buzzed non-stop. Half asleep, she fumbled for it. "Hello?" Silence. She waited a few seconds, frowning. "Hello? Who is this? If you're not talking, I'm hanging up." Then a voice came through. Ice cold, edged with fury. "Who gave you the guts to stay with him? Do you have a death wish? Grant." She didn't even flinch. She hung up immediately and rolled over, mumbling, "God, what a nightmare." But the video had gone beyond viral. By morning, Ellie's hot pot shop had become a citywide sensation. Lines stretched down the block, people showing up just to see Lucky at work, to catch a glimpse of Nathan dropping by, or to witness a live moment from their new favorite couple. Her business tripled overnight. Every customer Savannah had poached came rushing back, tenfold. And so, that night, just as the restaurant was closing, Savannah Blake showed up. She walked in like nothing was wrong, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers, smiling like they were old friends. "Congratulations, Ellie." Ellie nodded toward a server. "You can take the flowers." Then she looked Savannah straight in the eye. "It's late. The restaurant's closing. What are you really here for?" Savannah's smile faltered. The sweetness vanished from her face, replaced by a cold, superior expression. "Name your price," Ellie blinked. "You want to buy my restaurant?" "Not just the restaurant." Savannah's voice lowered. "I want you gone. Out of Seattle." Ellie gestured for her staff to clock out, then laughed softly. "You know, for a city this big, it's funny how small your world is. If you and your entourage just stay out of my way, I'm sure we'll never have to meet again." Savannah scoffed, gaze sharp with arrogance. "Don't think that just because you've got Nathan Prescott hanging around, that you or your little hot pot shack belong anywhere near high society." Ellie's jaw tightened, but she didn't reply. Savannah stepped closer. "You have no idea what kind of family the Prescotts are, do you? His brother runs the company, sure, but that doesn't mean they'll let someone like you in. You run a restaurant. You're beneath them. You don't belong." She dropped her voice into a hiss. "Take the money, while your shop still has value, before I destroy you." As harsh as Savannah Blake's words were, Ellie had to admit, at least she was clear, sharp, and deliberate in her thinking. It surprised her a little. The truth was, Broth and Ember had been making good money. Ellie wasn't lacking financially, but in the world of Seattle's elite, it didn't mean much. Her restaurant barely registered on their radar. What she really didn't understand was why. "When I was with Grant," Ellie said quietly, "you and he weren't even together. You were the one who walked away. When you came back, I stepped aside. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I didn't make a scene. So why keep targeting me?" For a brief moment, something flashed across Savannah's face. Anger, then something that looked oddly like pain. Her lips curled into a cold smile. "Grant may be blind, but I'm not," she said. "It's obvious he still has feelings for you. If I hadn't stepped in when I did, were you planning to come back and replace me?" Her voice was sharp, brittle. "He barely looks at me. Half the time, he stares at his phone like he's waiting for a message. A few days ago, I kissed him. You know what he said? Without thinking?" She looked Ellie dead in the eye. He said, "Ellie, stop it." Ellie felt like she couldn't breathe. Savannah's voice rose, her composure cracking. "Who the hell do you think you are, competing with me? Even when I gave him up, you weren't worthy of picking him back up. And that idiot Nathan? What's wrong with his eyes? Taking in someone like you? A broken, discarded shoe?" A voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Better a discarded shoe than a mouth like yours." Both women turned to see Nathan Prescott standing just inside the restaurant. He walked in slowly, calm but firm, placing himself between Ellie and Savannah. "If choosing the wrong man makes someone worthless," he said coolly, "then I guess the best option is to just die rather than live on, right?" He looked her over from head to toe. "I have to say, Miss Blake, you dress like you're from this century, but the way you think, that's straight out of the feudal era." Ellie couldn't see Nathan's face, but she saw Savannah's. white as a sheet, frozen in place. Then Nathan turned slightly and smiled gently at Ellie. "Don't worry," he said softly. "No one in my family talks like that. We judge people by their character and how they make us feel." He paused, glanced toward the door where Lucky was curled up. "And so does my dog." It almost sounded like a burn. Late that night, in the quiet of a sleeping neighborhood, Ellie and Nathan walked side by side, Lucky's leash in hand. The fallen leaves made no sound beneath their feet. "Sorry to drag you into all this again," Ellie said, glancing over. "Borrowing Lucky, having him at the restaurant. You've really gone above and beyond." "It's fine," Nathan chuckled. "He's grown up. Time he started pulling his weight." Ellie smiled faintly but couldn't quite shake her awkwardness. She hesitated, then finally said, "And about all the stuff going viral, our whole couple ship thing online. I just want to say sorry." Nathan stopped walking and turned to her, eyes catching the glow of a street lamp. "Funny," he said. "I thought you were going to give me an answer." "An answer?" "It's been over a month since that blind date," he said, voice low and steady. "So tell me, Ellie Monroe, do you think the internet's right about us? Could it be real?" There it was again. That soft, easy confidence that made her toes curl. Nathan Prescott was everything her grandmother could have hoped for. Kind, composed, brilliant, and stupidly good-looking. Her mind scrambled. She wasn't in love, not yet, but it was hard to ignore the fact that her heart hadn't felt this light in years. Flustered, she pointed at the building behind her. That's my place. Good night, Dr. Prescott." And she bolted. She didn't stop running until she was inside the elevator, red-faced and breathless. She touched her cheeks, still burning, and scolded herself. "Ellie, you're a grown woman. You've seen attractive men before. You've even been in love before. It's just a confession. Chill out." She patted her cheeks, then stepped out as the elevator doors opened, only to find Grant Whitmore standing right outside her apartment. They hadn't seen each other in over a month. His face was pale, lips tight, eyes darker than ever. "Well," he said coldly, stepping toward her, "looks like you've been doing just fine without me." The sound of his leather shoes echoed across the hallway floor, heavy and deliberate, shattering the silence of the night. Instinctively, Ellie Monroe took a step back. She didn't want to feel afraid. But this version of Grant Whitmore terrified her a little. Her retreat only seemed to set him off. In one swift, powerful move, he grabbed her wrist. "Who told you you could run from me?" He shoved her up against the hallway wall, and then his mouth was on hers. The kiss was hard, angry, bruising. She could taste the alcohol on his breath, feel the heat of it as his body pinned her in place. Ellie tried to push him off, panic seizing her chest. "Let go of me!" Smack. Her palm met his face, full force. His head turned with the blow. Grant licked the corner of his mouth, a crooked, menacing smile stretching across his lips. His grip never loosened. "V. So you're really sleeping with him?" Ellie glared, about to respond. But before she could speak, his arm snaked around her waist, yanking her closer. His face was so close now she could feel his breath on her skin. "Say it," he growled, eyes wild. "Say you're with him. I'll rip him apart." The back of her head hit the wall. She twisted her body, trying to create space, cold fire in her eyes. "If you don't back off, I'm calling security. I mean it." She lifted her arm to shove him again. But he was quicker. He caught her wrist mid-air. "Break up with him," he said, voice low, forceful. "Come back to me. Let's start over." Then his shoulders dropped. For the first time, something fragile flickered in his voice. "I can't stand seeing you with someone else. I'm going crazy, Ellie. You've won. You've completely won." He took a shaky breath. "That day you came for your things, I thought I wouldn't care. I figured, you're gone. That's it. But since then, you're all I think about. No matter where I am, it feels wrong without you. And every time I picture you with Nathan, I just want to grab you and never let go." If Grant had said these words a month ago, hell, a year ago, Ellie would have broken. She would have cried right there and gone back to him without question. But now it was too late. It had been too late for a while. She gently shook her head, used the opening to push him away, and turned toward her door. "I'm sorry," she said, voice quiet but firm, "but that's not my problem anymore." She placed her thumb against the fingerprint scanner. The soft beep sounded as the door unlocked. "You should go home. Learn to get used to being without me. Be good to Savannah, and stop chasing something that's already dead." As the door began to open, Grant's voice called after her. Desperate, broken. "I broke up with her. Is that what you wanted to hear?" Ellie froze. Her eyes widened. For a second, she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. He sounded like he'd blamed her, as if she'd forced his hand, like she owed him something in return. If she had that kind of power over him, would she ever have endured the shame of being left? Would she ever have spent years begging silently for scraps of affection? Grant stepped toward her again, but stopped himself, hesitating like he suddenly realized how far he'd gone. His voice was different now. Hoarse, uncertain. "I kept telling myself it was always Savannah, that she was the one I loved. I really tried to believe it, but no matter what I did, it never felt right." Ellie stood still for a long moment, then slowly walked inside. She was calm, emotionally detached, tired even. "I don't care who you love, Grant, just don't let it be me." Her voice echoed with quiet finality. Grant's tone spiked again, frantic. "Then what the hell do I have to do? Just tell me. What do I have to do for you to come back?" Ellie didn't look back. "Call the cops," she said, "because that's the only way you'll ever control me again." But in a strange twist, the one who ended up calling the police wasn't Grant. It was Ellie. Because the next morning, disaster hit. More than a dozen customers who had dined at Broth and Ember the night before were hospitalized for food poisoning. News broke fast. Someone had anonymously filed a report accusing the restaurant of severe health code violations. Then, things got worse. The media pounced on her past, twisting the truth until it became unrecognizable. They called her a shameless woman who'd seduced Grant while Savannah was studying abroad. Old gossip, once forgotten, was spun into viral headlines. They didn't care about facts. The same internet that once shipped her sweetly with Nathan now turned vicious. Her name trended again. But this time, for all the wrong reasons. And the comment sections? Brutal. Words like slut, thief, fake, liar appeared over and over again. They weren't just attacking her career anymore. They were tearing down her. But amid all the chaos, one oddly good piece of news emerged. Ellie Monroe had also gotten food poisoning. She didn't have a place to cook or stay, so her 3 daily meals had all been from Broth and Ember too. At first, social media was gearing up to roast her for being irresponsible, but once they learned she had gotten sick as well, the pitchforks wavered. Okay, maybe this was an accident after all. If she poisoned herself too, It probably wasn't on purpose. The public opinion softened. Barely. We'll give her restaurant the benefit of the doubt, but her morals, still not sure. Some fans of the CB couple weren't ready to give up hope. Wait, she got food poisoning? That means she's probably in the hospital. What if it's Nathan's hospital? And as if the universe heard them, yes, Dr. Nathan Prescott was the one treating her. He stood beside her hospital bed in a crisp white coat, adjusting the flow rate of her IV drip with his usual calm precision. But something was off. Gone was his warm, charming demeanor. He was serious now. His expression unreadable. Ellie lay back under the blanket and peeked up at him cautiously. "Dr. Prescott," she murmured. "Is it bad?" "It's not serious," he replied, voice cool and even. "Just rest a few days and you'll be fine." "Then why do you look so intense?" He didn't answer. Instead, he closed the medical chart, turned, and headed toward the door. Oh. And no candy for 2 days. The topic switch was so abrupt, it took her a second to register it. Okay? From the chair beside her bed, a tall, well-built officer, Detective Jack Chambers, was filling out a police report. He glanced up, eyebrows raised. "Damn, someone's in trouble," he muttered under his breath. Ellie blinked. "What?" Jack leaned in a little and said, half smiling, "I mean, whoever did this, they picked the wrong guy to piss off." "What do you mean?" "Prescott," he said, gesturing toward the door. "Just because he doesn't need to inherit the Nin fortune doesn't mean he wasn't raised by that family. You don't want to mess with someone like him. Even their dog seems smarter than most people I know." Ellie suddenly felt the IV drip in her arm go ice cold. She wasn't sure if it was her imagination, but the moment Nathan Prescott got involved, things moved fast. Within 3 days, the investigation was complete. He culprit? Just as she'd suspected, Savannah Blake. It all tied back to the night Grant had shown up at Ellie's apartment, drunk and desperate, begging her to take him back, and getting rejected. He returned home in that same miserable state, still muttering Ellie's name under his breath. Savannah heard everything. Consumed by jealousy and rage, she snapped. The sabotage was premeditated, a desperate attempt to eliminate Ellie once and for all by destroying her business and reputation in one blow, but it backfired. Once the police released their findings publicly, Savannah's reputation in Seattle's social elite crumbled overnight, and the internet, once divided, now saw the story for what it was. Every piece of Ellie's past with Grant, every twist, every half-truth, was dragged into the light and dissected with brutal clarity. Suddenly, Ellie wasn't the villain in a love triangle. She was the girl who'd been used, abandoned, and quietly walked away, only to be attacked from behind. Wait a second. Savannah Blake never even accepted Grant Whitmore's confession back then, so what exactly was stolen from her? She walked away. She left. She didn't want him until someone else cared enough to stay. The internet turned fast, so Ellie chased him for years, just to have him stolen after Savannah changed her mind. That's sick. Can't believe Grant let that happen, seriously. How blind is this man? I work at a wedding planning agency. I saw the whole thing. When Savannah flew back to the States, Ellie was literally decorating their house for a proposal. She was going to propose. That comment lit the entire internet on fire. People began tagging Grant with scathing reminders of everything he'd thrown away. How does it feel to walk out on someone who was going to marry you? She loved you more than you'll ever deserve. Be honest, Grant. Do you regret it now? And then, to everyone's shock, he replied, "Yes, I regret it. I'm trying to make it right. I want her back." When Nathan Prescott saw the pinned comment, he and Ellie were in her hospital room. She was propped up on the bed, slowly working through a sliced apple and scrolling her phone when his head tilted toward her. His look made her blink. What? Nothing. His face was unreadable. You're allowed to eat. I'm not mad. She eyed him warily and took another bite, cautiously. But just as she started chewing, Nathan said, calmly, "If you actually take him back, I'm sending Lucky after you." Ellie choked, nearly coughing up her apple. What? He adjusted his invisible glasses with his middle finger, tone flat. I mean it. But she understood what he meant. Because that night, Grant Whitmore showed up at the hospital. He wasn't drunk, but the scent of scotch still clung to him faintly. Like he'd been up all night thinking, pacing, spiraling. His eyes were bright with something new. Resolution. "Ellie," he said, stepping inside her room. "I know everything now." "What are you talking about?" Before she could even sit up, he pulled a small red velvet box from his pocket. "Don't open it!" she blurted out, completely by reflex. Grant froze. He stared at her with quiet devastation. "I know you were going to propose that day." Ellie said nothing. "We were supposed to be married by now," he went on. "You loved me that much. I know you did. So you can't tell me it was real for 4 years and now it's just gone." There was a desperation in his voice, a hollow ache. "I made a mistake. Breaking up with you was the worst decision of my life. I've already ended things with Savannah. I'm done doubting. Please, come back. Let's try again." But Ellie calmly reached out, took the box from his hand, and held it gently in her palm. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. "I was going to propose," she said. "You're right, but you didn't show up, and you didn't care. You lost your chance that day, Grant." His eyes dimmed, shadows swirling behind his lashes. "Number, you love me. You've loved me for years. How can you just walk away now? We didn't miss our moment, Ellie. That wasn't the end." He stepped closer, voice cracking slightly. 4 years ago, you came to me first. You made the first move. You gave us a chance. Can't you give me one now?" Their eyes locked. In his gaze was grief, guilt, and a fragile kind of hope. And for a moment, just a breath, Ellie believed him. But then she glanced sideways and saw a man and a dog walk by the hospital window. Nathan and Lucky. Her lips curved into a slow, measured smile. "Okay," she said. "I'll give you a chance." Grant's eyes lit up. Hope bloomed on his face. And then she turned, walked to the window, and tossed the ring box out into the garden below. "Find the ring," she said. "Bring it back to me. Then we'll talk." Grant looked stunned, but then he nodded. Serious, determined. "All right, I will." After she was discharged, Nathan and Lucky came to pick her up. Ellie stood by the window in silence, watching as Grant dug through the flower beds. He searched every day after that, and eventually, he found the box. But the ring was gone. No one knew if someone had taken it, or if it had simply disappeared. Nathan stood beside her, arms crossed, voice quiet. "So, if he finds it, would you really go back?" Lucky sat at his feet, stiff with suspicion. Ellie chuckled and pulled a glittering diamond ring from her coat pocket. "Only if he finds the real one." Nathan blinked. "You kept it." "Of course I did." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Let's see how he likes hoping for something that isn't coming." "He won't give up easily." I'm counting on that, she said simply. Nathan clucked his tongue and shook his head. But he was smiling now. Savage, he muttered. You'd fit right in with the Nin family. He stepped closer, casual but sure. Now that we're done with him, can I get an answer? About that blind date? You ever think about making it something more? Ellie raised an eyebrow, playful. Instead of answering, she knelt and scratched behind Lucky's ears. What do you think, Lucky? She said with a grin. Should I say yes? Dear listeners, today's emotional love story comes to a close. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to support our team in bringing more tender, unforgettable stories to life. Wishing you endless joy, gentle days, and a heart always filled with love. Until we meet again in the next story. Take care and stay inspired.